All right, so we're recording. At the end of the session, I'll open it up. If you guys have anything additional that you would like to share that you've encountered, because you guys use, you being the instructors, you're in the classroom and in Blackboard way more than even than the designers. So we really value your your input and what you have to bring to this topic. It's really important for us to share this with our instructors because it's becoming more and more important, as you guys all already know. There's a lot of institutions that are getting being looked at. UNT is one of the most recent, and they are still dealing with the effects of not making their courses completely accessible. And again, it's not that all of our courses have to be perfect. We just have to show to the entities that are watching us that we're making a good faith effort in doing that. So let's go ahead and get moving here. So what is it? What is the ADA? It's a law that happened in 1990. It's helping people with different disabilities in life, including jobs, schools, and transportation. Uh, we're going to be focusing, of course, on the educational component. And it really, for us, is, if I boil all of this down, is making sure that that your students within fair and reasonable efforts can access the information that you put into Blackboard. And then we touch on some of the better ways to create information that that we distribute to them. I hope that made sense. I apologize, my caffeine's a little low. So, so of course we're talking about making accommodations, and all of you already do that. I know that Natalie and Allegra and the rest of you have come to me on, or David or Austin, on more than one occasion, and have told us what you're doing in your courses and how you're handling accessibility. And it really is important. It to me, it almost straddles universal design for learning, where something was created with one particular idea in mind, but other people found it useful. Like when you see electric doors that were created for folks that had challenges walking through a regular pull or push door, um, and because of that, people in, let's say electric doors were created for people in wheelchairs or crutches or something like that. Well, people with strollers found them useful. Delivery people found them useful. People just carrying items found them useful. And that's kind of the same thing when we look at ADA in our courses. Uh, some of the things that you already know about as far as best practices, like not putting text in red because people that are colorblind can't see red, or keeping a high contrast, just black letters on a white background, are helpful because folks that have, especially veterans that have injuries, or ocular injuries, they find it hard to read different combinations of text and color. Uh, Closed captioning in 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 our videos, we typically think of someone who needs it for an impairment or a challenge, but also English as a second language students find it very useful, or people that are more text learning centered, they find it useful. I know Allegra, for one, likes to watch videos with the sound off sometimes and just read it, and I do the same thing too. Sometimes it's just helps with taking notes and whatnot. So a lot of these things have multiple implications, and they impact students in multiple ways. Um, so one of the things that we are going to focus on today that is really important, is it's a really cool thing, is the Office suite in Microsoft. It has a ton of wonderful features that are really amazing. So, and I'm going to go ahead and show you guys what that looks like as we go through this. Uh, Office and PowerPoint, even Excel, they have some ADA features that are built in that are really fantastic for instructors, and as that are really great. So let me go ahead and move forward here. So the first thing you guys want to remember when creating materials to go inside a Blackboard, or even your Office suites, is just to be consistent. Make sure things are clear and consistent in your layouts, your organization. The second step is to make sure to use the headings tool. Are you guys familiar with how to use headings in Microsoft Word? Yes. Okay, good. Oh, excellent. Somewhat. Okay. Well, one of the worst things that you guys can do, or and I won't, and I don't, and I'm not pointing fingers at anybody, of course, because I don't know. I've probably been guilty of this myself in the past. What is headings? Glad you asked, Austin. Let me show you. Here, give me just a second, and I'll share my screen with you guys. So I'll show you what this looks like. Hang on just a second. Well, I was going to share it, but it's not sharing. Okay. Well, I'll come to it here in the later in the thing here. So let me get back. I apologize. It's for some reason it's not working. That's kind of a downer. Uh, but I'll show you here. Okay, so using the headings, I'll show you here on the next thing here. The headings, this is what it looks like if you guys can see my screen. In the headings section, you'll see that you get to it over on the far left by clicking on the Home tab, and then the second step is there's when you're typing in a document, you'll see these different items that you can see right above here in the screen where it has the different little fonts, and you'll see it say heading 1, 2, 3. Hang on a second. I believe Angela just asked a question here. They should, yes. Okay. So, but anyway, this is where your headings live, and when you type something in, you can highlight it and then click on this on one of these functions here, and then it will take on the properties of those headings. And I would, if you guys will indulge me for a second, I would like to show you guys why it's important. So if you look in your chat window, I want you guys to do me a favor and click on this, right click on it and say open in a new tab. And I would like you to watch a precisely 2 minutes and 15 seconds of this video. And it's going to demonstrate why headings and why formatting is so essential inside of Blackboard, inside of Word, PowerPoint, and all that. If you would for me, go ahead and click it, watch it, and when you come back, just type OK after you've watched it. It's pretty cool to watch how a screen reader works, isn't it? Now you guys have, having watched this demonstration of kind of how someone uses it, you can see how essential it is to make sure in your formatting inside your documents how important it is, because if they are not formatted correctly, Austin can even tell you it makes it a nightmare for those guys for folks that are using that technology to maneuver through homework assignments and or documents. And you can see how quickly in that demo that lady moved through her stuff. She was really moving it, and that voice was talking really fast. So, and you think about time limits that, or just time constraints that that full able-bodied students have, and if you have some sort of challenge to that, it could make things even much more difficult without the correct formatting to help with that technology. So I believe they can, Angie. I think they can. I do believe that as they get more apt to that technology, that they can, and Austin can probably type a yes or a no, but I do believe they can actually speed up. They can make it go faster or slower. But typically when they're navigating, yeah, they can cruise through that pretty quick. And so I'm going to go ahead and move on. So another thing that really helps with formatting is using lists, and they should be created if you're going to use them using the tool. And you can see here's a screenshot of it. up at the top here where you can have a drop down, and it gives you different lists and even different list levels and whatnot, which is amazing. Just another thing for thought here. And here's where you find it, of course, inside of Word. You can see here on the Home tab, and then just right over towards the middle of the page, just to the left of the headings, you'll see your drop down for lists, and it even has more things that you can do further down in the settings there. Meaningful hyperlinks. Now that you guys saw that video of the lady from D2L, can you imagine when you just take a web address from the top, if you look at the top of this session right there, and you were to copy and paste that, what that would sound like to a screen reader, where it would have all these letters and numbers and all this weird stuff, and that could be very irritating, especially if it's a super long link. Yeah, it's super evil, Julia, for real. So that's why it's really important to use hyperlinks where you can maybe highlight the item that you're in reference to. Just highlight, just do a right click and go down. As you can see in step one, you right click with your mouse. Step two is you go down the menu and select hyperlink, and then you can tell it what text you want it to display, and then put the address in at the bottom, so that it'll be a lot more meaningful to a student that needs that information.
Hey, Scott.
Yes, sir.
The screen reader will also, once it's a hyperlink, it will say hyperlink to automatically. It'll recognize that that's a hyperlink, and so it will say hyperlink to Tarrant County College.
That's see. Thank you, Austin. That's totally cool. That makes it a lot more meaningful for all those involved, for sure. So let me see here. Okay, so the next part here is alt texting. To put you guys on the spot, but do you guys all use this? Do all of you, or at least when you're putting in, yes, use alt texting in your pictures? Cool. Gosh, you guys are awesome. Well, let's talk about it just for a second. So in Word, when you right click on a picture, you can see at the bottom here it has format picture as the option. And when you go to format, it will produce this, as you can see here in the next image. It will actually produce a little multi-menu here, and you can see that step one, it's the third option to the right. You see the bucket, then like a little shape there, and then the next one where it has a formatting kind of an icon with the arrows. You choose that, and then it'll have some options here. It says text box, and then alt text. You hit the chevron, and you can put in the title, which that's when you mouse over the image. That's what everybody will see. But then the important part, and Austin, if you don't mind speaking to this, is the description. And that's what the majority of the I guess non-challenged students or non-disabled students they're not gonna see that, but anybody with a screen reader, whatever you put in there is what they're gonna get. If you're giving a description of like a bowl of fruit on a table, it was.
Oh, go ahead. When you're doing alt tags, a lot of times people will put in stuff like image of a bowl of fruit, for example. If you put in image of, it's the same thing with the screen reader. When it gets to an image, it knows it's an image, so it automatically says image of. So if you put image of in there, it'll say image of, or image of, picture of. So it's best just to, when you're alt tagging, to label your image with the information you want the student to know. So for instance, if it's a bowl of fruit in a 17th century romantic painting, you want to talk about it from the perspective of a teacher teaching about 17th century romantic painting. But if it's a bowl of fruit that was poisoned and you want to talk about that in a history class, then you don't have to necessarily talk about the context of the painting or the style of the painting. So you just want to be aware of what the context is that you're speaking to about the image.
Thank you, sir. That's awesome. All right, well, let's go on to the next part. But before I do, one of the things that, it looks a little different, and I'm sure you guys are totally aware of it, but inside of Blackboard, when you go to the mashup tool where it has to insert an image, before you can even hit submit, there are two fields that you have to fill in where it'll say, and I don't know what order they're in, I don't want to make a liar out of myself, but there's two fields where you can put the title and the description. So always make sure in your head to take that, be mindful to take those 2 extra steps. I'm sure most of you already do, and just go ahead and fill it in, because once you do, then it's just done, and your students will be the beneficiaries of that. So um, and this is another really cool thing that Austin actually showed me after he went through his ADA training with TXDLA. I didn't know this at all, that I guess, is it, Austin, is it just automatic how it works, where it goes, the default for us is English?
The default for us is English, but if you look, there's three different English languages, and that's because we have the King's English, which is British, and it does inhibit the voice technology in JAWS. If you label it, it'll say English USA or English America, depending on whether you're on a Mac or a PC. But if you label it appropriately, let your document be known that it's English America, the screen reader actually has different functions where it reads from those languages, because it's such a big data pool that it's pulling from in written language, that it helps the screen reader be a little bit more effective.
Cool. So with that being said, I'm going to show you guys where this is and how you change it in your own Word docs. So you can see right here, I'm going to go to the next image. So if you click on the Review tab inside of a document, and then you click on the Language button in step number 2 there, you will have a drop down that will have Language Preferences. And once you get to that point, it will look like this, where you'll have some options. Language will be highlighted in the left-hand margin, and then you'll see these 3 fields here, where you'll see Choose Editing Language, and you can see here that it has English United States as default, and you can, click on it and then make sure that it's saved as default. I think that check mark appears when you do that. And then you can see that down here in the next 2 that it says Display Language and Help Language. You want to go ahead, because I don't believe they're, like Austin said, they're not really selected by default. You want to go ahead and highlight each one at a time. Highlight English in the left one, and then click Set as Default. Then go over to the other field, select English again, Set as Default, and then click OK at the bottom. And then that way you'll make sure that you're, not using some janky version of English that is going to mess up your students. So again, tables, when you use them, you want to use them wisely, because there are some limitations, and it can really have it can make a difference between the way I guess in the order that that screen readers will read this. They won't go in the order that you would think. Isn't that right, Austin? They will go like in a different direction, and so it's really important when you create them to have some rules there.
Yes, and you want to limit your tables, because uh, if you think about it, somebody's scanning through a table. Once they get past like 3 or 4, they're having to keep mental track of that. And a good model is tic-tac-toe. If you've ever played mental tic-tac-toe, this is the model that's been talked about quite a bit. Is if you've ever played mental tic-tac-toe with somebody, it's a good brain sharpening tool. But if you think about, I'm not going to write this down, we're just going to sit here and talk about tic-tac-toe, and I'm going to put my 0 or my O in the center square, and then next person moves and they say, I'm going to put the X in the upper left corner, and then you have to keep track of all that along the way. That's what's happening to somebody who's listening to it on a screen reader. They have to keep track of all that information. So if you want to use tables, and I highly recommend it, the recommendation is to use quite a few tables to break down your information. Don't try and put everything in a cross section where they have rows and columns that go to like 12 or 14 or something like that. It's best to limit it to 3 or 4 at the most, and then just have more tables. It helps the students disseminate the information. Even non-impaired users disseminate information better, because they're getting micro bursts of information. So it's easier to eat the elephant one bite at a time. Peace out.
Give the governor a harumph. Uh, and yes, thank you, Austin. That was perfectly articulated. So the next thing I want to show you guys is where the accessibility checker is in the Word suite. And the example I have up here is for Microsoft Word. So in Word, if you go to the File tab, and you click on it, this is what it will look like. And the File tab is the very first thing that you see under in the far left, upper left-hand corner, and it's underneath you'll see like an icon for an old floppy disk, to save your stuff, and then you'll see the tab for File. When you do that, you'll have all of these different things here, and you will click on Info, and then come over here to check for issues, and you'll click this, and then there's an option here for check accessibility. And when you do, this is, and gosh, I got ahead of myself there. You click on File, and then you'll go here to check accessibility, or check for issues, and then check accessibility, and then choose that. And once you do, it will start a wizard for you. And it'll open up in the right-hand segment here, and it'll actually tell you the items that it's found, and you click on each item, and it will give you steps and how to make it compliant. And this is a really great thing. I believe that, no, I'm not, no, I'm almost positive that uh, PowerPoint and Excel both have these features as well. And Microsoft really, so far, is doing it the best out of a lot of the software that we use. I think they're pretty much setting a standard as far as what they've done with their documents and trying to help people make their stuff more accessible to recipients. Okay. One of the final steps that you guys want to be cognizant of. Oh, to access it, Natalie? Yeah, no problem. Here's how you access it. Or access the accessibility checker. Inside of Word, you go up here to File, and when you click on that tab, it you'll have all these options here. You will choose Info. Yes, there is a checker in Office, in all the Office programs. At least, uh, Austin, how far back? Do you know how far back from your training? How far back the accessibility checker goes to? What's the oldest version?
That version started 5 years ago. The oldest version started in the early 2000s, but it was not universally adapted because they were using it to develop the accessibility checker. But the best version started about 5 years ago, so it's still in its toddler years. Just so you know.
Okay, so all of us should have it with the laptops that you've been given from TCC. So this is looking at our current version that we're all using from work. Okay, cool, cool, cool. So you can see here, you click on Info, and then then you'll see three buttons on here. It's the second one that says Check for Issues, and then you'll choose Check Accessibility, and it will launch the wizard. So I'll go ahead and move on. So here's another thing for those of you that are using third-party items. Well, if you're using Pearson things or McGraw-Hill or anything that any kind of materials that you're putting into your course, you really do want to make sure that we want to put the responsibility of ADA compliance on those third parties to make sure that they understand that this is that this is an expectation that all of us as an educational community have, and and put the burden on them to make sure that they make sure their materials that they're making and delivering to us are accessible. Is there a way to convert a table to a list? Natalie is asking. You know what, Natalie? Oh, Austin, do you have the answer?
There is a way to convert a table to a list, and we can talk. It gets a little more complex, and then is a good point to talk about that since you're asking that, because it's going to actually, that's what it's always going to do. It's always going to point you to a table, because once you get into accessibility, the problem with the list is it starts to read it really fast, and it doesn't identify inside of a list. If you put numbers, it'll let them know. But if you, for instance, inside of a list, if you choose the bullet points instead of numbers, it gets kind of sketchy about identifying the information and isolating it for the students. And so we can talk about that, Natalie, and I can help you with that. But the other thing I want to say is all of this works in both a Mac and a PC platform. It's slightly different in a Mac, and we don't have the screenshots for a Mac in here because dominantly everybody is on a PC. But we are working to make a Mac presentation. But if you ever have a question about using it on a Mac and it's Word, anything in the Office suite, please reach out to me. All Office products have some type of accessibility checker in there. And so we can, PowerPoint has an accessibility checker. They just did a really cool thing where you can turn on automatic, did you say Max or fake news, Dr. Tim Park? They just put a thing into Word in the last big iteration of it, and Office in general, that when you drop an image in, it actually will auto alert you to make sure that you alt tag it. So they're actually putting in little mini alerts that anything that's not accessible when you plug it into your document, it will let you know that it needs to be made accessible. Yes. Yeah, if you're on a Mac, Natalie, you see it in a little bit different area, yeah. So, and that's the difference there, because you can actually go up to the top and see view. Where is it? Sorry. Oh, I'm in the wrong thing. Sorry. View, format, and then check accessibility. So I just wanted to let you all know that. Sorry.
Austin, thank you. That's awesome. So again, like Austin said, if you guys have any questions that we didn't cover in this after we're done here, you're more than welcome to reach out, circle back around and reach out to us, and we will definitely find the answer, or if we have it readily available, we'll go ahead and walk you through whatever we need to and create materials. Either way, we've got your backs on this. We want to make sure that you guys don't have any issues, that that you can just focus on what you're doing is helping students learn. So what you're looking at right now is a VPAT, which is a voluntary product accessibility template. This is the kind of and we can email this out if you guys want it. It's just this is a standard thing that you can put in an email to send to a publisher. And this just asking them to, where they, this kind of forces their hand to say, hey, we need ADA compliant materials, as required by, Section 508 and WCAG guidelines. Is your stuff accessible? And if so, what steps have you taken? And this really does, it really kind of helps put them in check and make them understand that this is a priority. And hopefully it creates a dialogue for them to, if they're not making their stuff accessible, it creates a dialogue and an expectation for them to do so. Let me move.
Just in regards to that, Scott. Oh, you're going to do questions now? But
no, go ahead.
Sorry. In regards to that, one of the things that I wanted to include in here, but we just didn't get the time, but we have all of the department chairs here pretty much. So here's the model we should look at, because I just had some experience working at UNT on this problem with them, and we don't have this problem that they have at all. Y'all are all very willing to work. But one of the things that we put in place there, and that I spent the last month writing, was this kind of document, and we're going to write this for us, but I want to make y'all aware of this. Look for those alerts at the beginning of the semester, and also when you talk to your staff, your adjuncts and things, if they get a notification that they have a student inside of their class that has a physical challenge that's going to limit their ability to interact with the content, if you will immediately think of us and alert us, what we can do is we can open up that shell and we will go through the content with them, and if they want to sit and do that with us, but we'll also do that initially on our own to look for compliance issues, and then we will be able to forestall and cut off at the curb any problems that could happen. A lot of problems where people end up in lawsuits, and I've seen this firsthand, is the instructors get really defiant. And this is not y'all. That's why I say we don't have this problem. And they just say, no, you can just do this. You can do like the other students. It's there in a Word document, and they don't make these adjustments. It's like once you know better, you do better kind of a situation. And we don't have that problem. But we also are here to help y'all, because I know at the beginning of the semester y'all get that alert, but y'all have to get into the first week, do orientation, and then start getting them into the practice of looking at content. We can help you tremendously with this. So that's our goal. So anytime this is an issue, anytime you get an alert and you say, hey, I think I'm good, but I want to just have a fresh set of eyes on it, please let us know. Anytime an adjunct gets this, we want to help the adjuncts too. We're here to help the adjuncts too. So if y'all just tell them to reach out to us and you reach out with us, we'll walk through their content and make sure that if they plugged anything extra in there, that it's ADA compliant too. So I just wanted to put that in y'all's ear and let y'all know that. So we appreciate all y'all do, and Julia Frink is typing. So. And Natalie said, I would love to have a resource that shows the best way to create a course calendar. I've seen many different types of, and I'm reviewing courses. My calendar is actually a table, so I need to update it. We will look at that. I will look for that, Natalie. I'm
Yeah.
going to make a note right now. So I
And
appreciate that.
and
I'm going to
Natalie,
start.
oh, it's okay. Sorry about that. And Natalie, if you want, we can definitely uh, record the process of using Google Calendars and Google Docs, where you can embed them in your courses, and it makes it really simple for updating, where you update the document and it just makes the update to all of your classes, and it's embedded. It looks phenomenal. I was able to view. It was really funny, and I can't share my screen for whatever reason, so I apologize to you guys. But I was going to show you guys what it looks like, and it looks really slick, and it looks very professional. It looks really nice. It's a neat way to use those tools. I do believe that the screen readers do work with the Google tools, so
A
you shouldn't
good
have any
rule.
problems.
A good rule of thumb is if you can highlight the text, it can read it. It'll read it.
Yes, so in that case it does, because you are able to highlight that stuff. Thanks, Austin. That's good. All right, guys. Are there any questions? Oh, what does it say? I'm wondering. Comes to team assignments. Uh,
That's a good idea because what he's speaking to there is what if a team's picked? I think that's what you're speaking to, Venancio. What if a team's picked and they have one student on there who has ADA compliance needs? We need to have that model put in place. That's actually a really good. I didn't even think of that, Venancio. That's a really good thing to talk about, and honestly, we should make something for that. And that kind of segues into that thing yesterday we were even talking about with the student wanting the ID and not being here. It's an issue that can be isolated, but when it comes up, it could immediately be a challenge. And that's something we need to look at. And so I'm gonna make a note of that too. And the length of alt tags, Julia. Um, think of it like this: like if, like for me, I was thinking from an art history point of view. When I'm talking about a painting in an art history course, I'm going to go on ad nauseum about it. Um, I'll have a lot of that in the text of anything that I'm writing. But if it's an alt tag on an image and that's the only thing the student sees, you want to go on ad nauseum about that, whatever you think that the students need to get out of it. So if it's once again, if it's a picture of a kidney to help Natalie, there's different parts of the kidney. It's shaped like a kidney bean. So you'd want to talk about the physicality of it, the size in relation to something that the person who's seeing that would understand. So like you would want to say that the kidney is half the size of your fist or something like that, so that somebody who's vision impaired and has never seen anything and can't relate size or scale to something abstract like it's the size of a mouse, they can relate to that. So anything that you can do thinking that way and from that point of view, there is no length requirements until you think you've described it successfully to your students to help them understand the context in which the image is going to be engaged with the curriculum. Sorry, I'm reading y'all stuff now, and I'm gonna get out so Scott can finish. Sorry.
oh no, that's perfectly fine, dude. I appreciate it because it's something that we all are kind of having to own together, because this is I don't think any one of us has all the answers when it comes to this. It really does come down to trying to take those moves in good faith, like making sure your images are alt tagged, making sure your videos are closed captioned, making sure that your color contrast are correct, making sure that your documents are formatted properly. Those are the things that all the things to be mindful of. And then, like Venancio and also we're talking about, if a student does identify a particular accommodation that they need, coming up, trying to come up with a way to authentically address it. The tough part is sometimes students don't necessarily bring up if they have some sort of challenge, because they don't want to be stigmatized. And so sometimes we find out when it's too late. And our campus doesn't have an SAR office, to my knowledge. I mean, I guess we have to reach out to the district SAR office. Is that correct, guys?
Trinity River SAR office for our campus. All of those
Okay, that's right.
services go to Trinity River.
Okay. Tim, I do believe that the school does have uh, Microsoft for personal use, and I believe you can reach out to Pat Boudreau and ask her for the link, and she will give it to you. Oh wow, 5 times. Rock on. I, actually, don't you can't you log into it if you do the Austin, if you log into outlook.tccd.edu from your home, and you can log into
Yes.
the it.
If
Yeah,
you log into inside TCC, go to when you log in at first. If you look over to the left, there's a little menu of things, and at the very bottom it says staff resources. That's the you'll see them. It says inside TCC on the left, and it says announcements, faculty resources, professional development, and staff resources. If you scan down to about the middle of the page, it says personal resources. You have Concur travel expense, Outlook email web app. If you click on the Outlook email web app, you actually have access to the entire Microsoft suite in there. You just go up to the corner, there's the little Rubik's Cube, and there's all the apps are on there, and you can use them. You can log into it at a hotel if you're at a conference that way, and you don't have to worry about it because you're using it basically in the virtual network. And so you don't have to download it to your computer and take that space up. If you want to download it to home, there's actually a link in the district, and I would be remiss to tell you where it is right now, but if you want, Scott and I can research that and send that to you.
yeah.
But there is a link where you can actually download the actual software in your computer. But you can do anything in it from that. I do it all the time at home.
Yeah, and Austin's right. It does make it really helpful because it saves it kind of out there in cyberspace. But inside, I think inside the options, when you're in that format, it does allow you to download it to your machine.
Here's here it is. So I'm logged into Inside TCC. Over here it says Inside TCC. I just scan down to here. I click on Staff Resources. I'm already on that page, so it's just going to rechange that picture. But then I
Great.
scan down to Personal Resources here. I do Outlook email web app. This is how I check my email all the time. Right here, I can go inside of any of the functions: Calendar, OneNote, OneDrive. Use OneDrive for all of your downloading and uploading needs. But here's all my stuff. And right there, look, Judy, of course, sent me a question. Angela Thurman sent me a podcast request. And Allegra, she wants to record at 10 o'clock on Wednesday. I tried to talk her out of it. So we're going to try and record really fast at 10 o'clock on Wednesday. So I know y'all usually come in around noon to record. So, but she may be jumping on your space. But all of them are here. If you see, there's Word. I can just click on Word, and then I can just work right onto on the internet side there. Yeah. Anyways, I just wanted to show you all that. All right. Peace out. Let's stop sharing my screen. I don't need to see all that.
That was totally cool. All right, let me see if I can do this. Dang it, mine won't work. So bummed.
You share content?
Yeah,
You're trying to do a Word document?
I'm just trying to share application screen and it won't do it.
It won't? I put you as a moderator.
Yeah, it's just not working. Well, like I was going to show the online interface, but you guys, Austin did cover it pretty good. And if you guys bring it up through, if you go to outlook.tccd.edu from your web browser, you can log into your email, but it'll also, in the left-hand corner, it'll have that little Rubik's Cube looking thing, and you can click on it, and it'll have all the other apps that you can access as well virtually, which is really cool. So there's the link if you were ever, someplace where you needed to access Word or PowerPoint or any of that stuff. Do you guys have any additional questions? Hey, thank you guys so much for your time and your patience listening to us. And if you need anything, please reach. You guys can come by or just let us know, and we'll if the materials don't exist, we'll, like Austin said, we're working on some things, but we can create whatever you guys need for your benefit and the students. So just let us know, and we'll be glad to take care of you in any way that we possibly can. So I'll even buy you guys a car. Do you like Hot Wheels or Matchbox better? uh, Hot Wheels for sure. Yeah, rock on Hot Wheels. All right, guys, let me